Okay, we are broadcasting.
Oh no.
And now the channel is live, so here's where I say hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on so many levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Dragons
D
and Dungeons.
and
D&D.
D? Both of
Yes,
them?
yes. In fact, both of them together. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I'm the Dungeon Master. Our players tonight, Jenny Meltzer as Zaleen.
I like dragons.
Mm-hmm. Paul Fisher as Zinhorn Windborn.
I like dungeons.
Something for everybody. Starla Hutchton as Carolina Swift.
Hello, friends.
And Mark Kilfoyle as Nedry Shiny Rock.
I'm coming to understand dragons a lot more. Not just because of Zinhorn, though. Although that's a big help.
All right, so we need a little bit of a recap because it has been a little while. Not only did we have an off week, but we also, the last even episode that we had was a one shot. Did we have another off week before that? I feel like maybe we did. So, yeah. In any case, it's been a few weeks since we last visited the Pocket Protectors. So let's talk about where we were. So, having decided to cooperate with friend of the Emperor, Nelson Devereaux, you decided to embark on a sponsored expedition to try to recover any of the people who were lost when a big government building got sucked into a bunch of evil fungus, and you all, certainly didn't cause it, but you were present at the time. It was a whole thing. But there was a bunch of people stuck in there, and you wanted to help them out, and so you did. And as part of that whole thing, you ended up briefly in the possession of a Demon Lord's Control Amulet, which is a big deal. It is an extremely evil artifact, and Empress Solomonia, deity of the lawful good domain of Mount Celestia, promptly showed up in order to suggest that you turn it over. And when you did, rewarded each of you with a boon, but none of you yet know exactly what that means. It seems like it's probably good. It felt pretty good. It was kind of just light and warm and nice, but you're not exactly sure what it means yet. But when you came out, you had successfully aided in the recovery of over 100 people who were weakened by their experience, but expected to recover. And you discussed with your friend of the Emperor is now a friend of yours, apparently. And what his arrangement with you was that he was impressed and pleased with your efforts, interested in continuing the relationship, whereupon you would basically keep doing what you were doing in terms of investigating Dinuther and all of that sort of thing. But with the modification is that they would no longer be hunting you, but that you would be providing them with updates voluntarily. And further, he suggested that he would have one of his own people that he would like to have accompany you, but he promised that this was not someone who's going to be a burden to you. You discussed that your payment, so to speak, for your efforts here was, first and foremost, the idea that you're no longer wanted by the Empire, and same for Lord Yobert Relenth, your patron, and his friends in the Flying Castle, your friends too. But also that they would cut through the red tape that had been holding up the plan to convert the old Reclaimer's Mansion into a new orphanage annex. So, things seem to be going smoothly. You perhaps have maybe even as much downtime as you feel like you need, but your friend Lord Relenth and the castle and everyone on board was expected back in the city by sundown this evening. You were told that you had credit at Sticky Zicky's Adventuring Emporium, and so you were buying some gear there, and that's kind of where we left off. We left off because Sticky Zicky had to do some looking through his database, in order to figure out what actual magic items he had available that might be fitting your particular needs. So let's just cover that now. We don't necessarily need this to be in full role play, unless, of course, you would like it to be. But I'll tell you what items he has available, and you can tell me what you would like to get. So first of all, you ended up with a pretty substantial amount of credit available. So you had already arranged that Zaleen bought a cloak. It's a fancy Cloak of Elven Kind, Drow edition, and a fancy gem that can be used as one of her spell components, and on discount, another one of the fancy advertising bats. And then Lynn bought the Instrument of the Bard's mandolin. And then you all decided to sell the external skeleton magic item that you'd been carrying around for a while. So that left, all told there, you had spent about 1,425 gold of your 20,000 credit limit. So you have a fair amount left to work with the understanding nonetheless that this is not just free money, right? This is, yeah. Hey, Rocky,
Right.
my
No,
dog's barking at me.
We got 1,800 for the sale of the.
Yes, but I was counting that credit towards what you've
okay.
spent. So you spent more than that, but I
Okay.
subtracted the
Got
1,800.
it. Okay.
Yes, but you were correct. So, as far as armor, this is what Zinhorn was looking for. And what Zicky comes back with is that, you originally gave him a budget of 5,000 gold. And what he ends up with that he can, if you're really rigid on that number, he has a set of adamantine plate armor, which will give you a base AC of 18 that would be 20 with your shield. And the adamantine property, what that does is it basically means that anytime you would be hit by a critical hit, it becomes a regular hit instead. It's just not, it's made not critical. But if you're willing to pay a little more, it has two different other armors. There is a set of splint armor that would have resistance to necrotic damage. And I believe that would make your AC 19 with the shield. You also and that would be 6,000 gold. And then also for 5,500 gold, he pulls out this strange, big, heavy-looking jug that looks like of liquid, and it has a strange little metal cap. And he says, "This is something that I usually don't even think of as armor to sell as magic armor. It's a little bit weird, and a lot of people aren't into it. But I took one look at you, and it made me think of it, because what this is called is molten bronze skin armor. And it effectively works like plate armor in the sense that it covers you. But basically, you attune to this jug, and it just covers all over you. Actually, let me double check. I'm not 100% sure it requires attunement. That's meaningful for you to know, so I'll confirm that. But it'll give you resistance to fire damage, and it has some other properties that I am having trouble pulling up because it's just taking a little bit. There we go. So it'll also give you, like the adamantine plate, it would give you the I think that would give you the highest AC of these. No. It's the same AC. You would have an AC of 20 with the shield, but it gives you resistance to fire damage. Does not impose disadvantage on stealth checks. And also because it's kind of this weird sort of special armor, it literally can't be removed from you unless you want it to be. So, for example, even if you were unconscious, they couldn't take it off of you without your like willing it.
That's really cool.
It does, however, require attunement.
Okay. So I would have to lose something that I was currently attuned to. All right. Let me look at that and I will get back to you.
Okay, so while you're thinking about that, Lynn, you are interested in some light armor. And there is a set of armor that has a specialty that is not necessarily something you're looking for, but could come in handy in a pinch. And it meets your other criteria, which is light armor that's magic, and so it would be able to adjust to different sizes if you needed, right? And so there's a set of mariner's armor that basically has kind of an aquatic theme. It gives you a swim speed, but does not give you the ability to breathe underwater, just the ability to move quickly underwater. And also, if you are to become unconscious or incapacitated while you are underwater, it automatically like inflates like a life vest to like raise you to the surface. And that would be 800 gold. But he has an idea that there's another thing that might come in handy for you, although it's considerably more expensive. For 5,500 gold, there is some glamored studded leather, and what that essentially lets you do is make it, you can have it make itself look like regular clothes instead of armor.
Yeah, I'm really leaning towards the first one.
Okay, I mean, that, totally up to you. Obviously, that one's a lot cheaper also.
What's the AC on that one?
Here, I'm pulling that up. So, the glamored studded leather does give you an additional +1 to what regular studded leather is, which I think is 12 plus your dex modifier.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have an additional +1 on top of that. And you can also use a bonus action to speak the armor's command word and cause it to assume the appearance of a normal set of clothing or some other kind of armor. You decide what it looks like. It does still, however, retain its normal bulk and weight. It's illusory. But you can make it look like any other kind of clothing. And then that is the glamored studded leather. The mariner's armor, I think, I want to say it's the same AC as the normal armor. It's just that it has that other swim speed property, and it would be magic in such a way as to have that other property.
So, like, if I went from half orc to dwarf, it would still fit.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would resize to fit you.
Then that's the one I want.
Yeah. Okay. So he does have that one in both leather and studded leather versions. Studded leather is just one additional AC, and that one is actually 1,200 instead of 800.
Still acceptable.
All right. So you are getting the studded leather version of mariner's armor. Okay. So Zaylene, you had said that in addition to your magical advertising bat, that you wanted some kind of a magical martial weapon.
Right.
So he has lots of weapons available, but some of the ones, depending on what kind of range of price you're looking for, he has several that he is suggesting. And one, the most inexpensive of these is a short sword of warning, where it is a short sword that does do magical damage, but does not have any other. I think it is a +1. But the primary magical trait that it has is that you cannot be surprised while carrying it. Like, it will alert you if you are about to be ambushed. And even if you and your party are asleep, if you're about to be attacked, it will wake you up.
That one sounds good.
And so that would be 1,200. But then there are some other slightly fancier ones. And there is a sword. It is another short sword. It has a name. It's called Piercer, and it's a +1. And a character attuned to this sword regains the maximum number of hit points from expended hit dice, but you also have to eat twice as much per day, or else you would become exhausted.
Hmm.
And that one would be 4,000 gold. And then there is a mace called Bone Counter that does additional damage. It's actually a +2 mace. And it would do additional damage to. Actually, I take it back. It doesn't do additional damage to undead, but every time you kill an undead with it, a silver piece appears in your pocket.
Ooh. How much is that one?
That one is 8,000 gold because
Ooh,
it is
no.
it is a +2.
Yeah, that's too much.
Okay, well, so if you once you say that, he goes ahead and he puts the fourth option away unless you want to see it. But that one's even more.
Yeah, I'm not going to even look because that's.
Okay.
I don't want to take away from what everybody else is trying to get by spending like 10,000 of our 20,000 gold. I actually think I will take the short sword of warning.
Okay. So that is going to be 1,200 gold.
Okay.
And as I said, that one I take it. So that one is not actually a +1. And it actually rules as written. It does not say that you do magical damage with it, but I'll say that it does.
Okay.
And the primary effect is that you actually also have advantage on initiative rolls, and you can't be surprised. You and your companions within 30 feet can't be surprised unless you are incapacitated. All right.
All right.
Great. And so, Zinhorn, did you decide on your armor? Oh, you're muted.
Like that. Okay. I would like to get the molten bronze skin armor. I know it's more expensive than my quarter of it, but I would also I traded in the external skeleton, which would cover the difference, but I also have gloves of missile snaring that I never use. So I've got to give up an attunement slot, so I could either give those to somebody else or we could sell them. I'm looking for the party's approval.
And I don't want them.
What was it? I'm sorry, I was reading something.
Gloves of missile snaring.
No. No.
Mark, is that something you would want?
I think he had them briefly, but I also have 3 attunements already full. So
Okay, so we'll sell the gloves of missile snaring, and I'll get the molten bronze skin armor, which is that plate or half plate?
You can get multiple different versions. What he has, like D&D Beyond has multiple versions. The version he has is the plate armor one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the big deal there is you get that improved AC, but also resistance to fire damage and without the stealth penalty, because it's not a bunch of clanking plates. It's basically like liquid metal all on you.
Okay.
But it's bronze,
And
so it like matches.
I know. And it's like an Iron Man suit. It just flows over me. How much is he going to give us for the
Gloves of missile snaring?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks those over and he decides he'll give you 800 gold for those.
Okay. We'll add that to our total. And that was 6,500.
Well, so the molten bronze skin plate was 5,500.
Oh, 5,500. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a pain in the butt because it was 3 weeks ago, but when I gave you that item, like the weapon that I wanted, I
Mhm.
did say that I didn't want one that required attunement because I
Oh,
already
okay.
have 3 attunement slots.
Okay.
So
Sure, sure. No, that's a good point. Let's see. You are correct. I remember that you said that now. So let's see. I think. See, the problem is a lot of the magic weapons, if they're going to like do anything interesting, do require attunement.
yeah,
Um, let's see. The bone counter mace does not require attunement. I think maybe the piercer sword. Let's see. Just of the ones that I had already looked up here. Uh, Piercer does. He looks, and he does actually have a mace called Lightbringer that is a +1, but it does not require attunement. Um, it's it is called Lightbringer, so there's a little. I think there's maybe an aesthetic clash, perhaps. It's shaped like the head of the mace is shaped like a sunburst and made of solid brass. It glows as bright as a torch when its wielder commands, and while it's glowing, it does an extra 1d6 radiant damage to undead.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. That one would also be 1,200 gold.
Okay. I actually have something I would like to sell if nobody wants it too. I have that staff of the adder. It does require attunement. It's the snakehead staff.
Not for me.
Nobody.
I'm not
Okay.
really a staff kind of person. I like pens.
Okay.
All right. Selling the staff of the adder. Okay, let's see how much you get for that. Okay. Yeah, that's a rare one. Okay. They will give you 4,000 gold for that.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
you
that
all-
just goes into our tab.
Yeah, well, so these prices are assuming that you're exchanging them for credit and not getting
Right.
cash.
Okay.
All right. So, well done. Was there anything else that you thought of that you wanted to pick up while you're here at Sticky Zickies? You could get another one of those coins of delving since you threw away the last one.
Yeah, I would like another coin of delving.
All right.
Maybe a
Um,
decent robe. Mine's gotten a lot of holes in it, and I can't repair it much anymore.
Sure. Yeah, so I think ordinary stuff like that. You're laying down enough on the big ticket items that he's not worried about the little ones.
Can we get does he have like diamonds here that we could get like diamonds for resurrection spells and stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Could I get like 600 worth of like diamonds?
Yeah.
Because that would be enough for me to cast Revivify twice, and then if Zinhorn wants to get some stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that Nedry has bought is about $1,100 or 1,100 gold worth of ingredients. It's like powdered gold, powdered diamond, powdered
Okay.
jade, in a small book.
All right. 1,100 GP worth. Okay.
1120 to be exact. I just realized I muted myself.
Okay. 1120. All right. So is that everything?
Yeah, I just need to see. I was in the process of working on spell components, and then I let work get in the way, which
Okay.
was a bad idea. But now I don't remember what of my spells actually need the diamonds for.
Right. Well, things like,
It's like
lesser rest or greater restoration and revivify and those sorts of spells require diamonds. We're not going to sit here while you look through your spell components
Okay,
list.
yeah.
We can retcon that you bought some of that stuff if we need to, but yeah, that's
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
since they don't have those like in there, is it okay to just add it as a custom item and write a note for what it's for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to remember how much you have. I usually find it handy to, like, especially if you know exactly what it would be used for, to put it in there as like one revivify's worth, and then you can have that be the item, and then you can have 2 of those or 3 of those, right? And so it's just that way you have a quick note on, like, instead of just saying this much gold worth of diamond dust, you say you have 2 revivify's worth, right? That's handy.
Right.
But so,
I need a 500 gold piece diamond
okay.
for a raised head.
All right.
At this point, Lynn is near the entrance, kind of pacing back and forth, checking the time.
Well, you are you think that you're not in a hurry, but it's convenient that the store here is already so close to the Skyport Tower for where you can go and meet with Sunia
Excited.
returning.
Can't wait. So when we're ready
Alright.
to go, we can go.
Okay.
Well, you tell me, everyone.
Yep.
Okay. So you finish up there, and I think you are able to have kind of a leisurely walk up out onto the platform. I think that there's been a little bit of miscellaneous messaging back and forth on sending stones just for logistical purposes. So they have arranged to go back to the same spot just because even though technically it wasn't still being rented in that period, they didn't fill it up. So you can go back to there. You've also been told by Nelson Devereaux that he would like you to meet with the person he hopes to have join you tomorrow, like brunch. But that you are otherwise, like, on the assumption that you're all still, working with that plan, you are at your liberty.
How long until the castle returns? Because I want to be on the platform when Sinead
Well,
comes
no,
flying in.
that's exactly what's happening right now. So I was
Okay,
just,
sweet.
yeah. So it's actually just starting to, the sun is starting to get low in the sky. So you've got lots of pretty clouds with, oranges and reds and so on. But that's in the other direction. So you have the setting sun glowing brightly on the side of Sunia's castle wall as she flies in, emerging from a bit of cloud and mist to settle down. And you can see now that she's up in the sky that there are actually like glowing stones of some kind and enormous propellers on the underneath that just sort of are under sort of a, like, the castle wall that looks like it goes down to the bottom is really just sort of like a frame around that. And then sure
I
enough,
feel like I'm peeking up her skirt. That doesn't seem right.
well, there's such a thing as practicality, But
I wanna,
oh yeah.
as we were leaving Sticky Zickies and on our way to the platform, I want to stop at like a little street vendor there and buy some flowers for Sanya.
Oh, beautiful. So actually, that just it just occurred to me, especially since Nedry mentioned getting a new robe. How about we take an opportunity here for everyone to just kind of re-up their current character look? Like, did you get a new outfit? What are you looking like now as we have this particular, tableau of you waiting for the castle to return?
Well, I have my new armor, and
Mhm.
I think to go with the red of my hair, the auburn, I think a nice like because it's mariner's armor, so it's aquatic themed. It's got like shells and things embroidered on it. So I feel like a nice teal, leaning towards blue, less green. But I feel like that would be a nice contrast to the hair, and I think it would paint a pretty picture there.
You ever see Death of the Endless
It doesn't
from
ring
the
a bell.
Sandman comics?
Why do I feel like your screen should go like black and white and fade into dark and
Yeah.
Ever see Death of the Endless?
No, I just look like more goth than before.
Ah, yes, yes, of course.
Mm. I got like some
Extra eyeliner.
knee-high boots with like chains on them and stuff.
Very nice.
I think Nedry's robe looks almost identical to the previous robe he had, which was just this very simple brown cloth woven. But he's very proud because this one has he'll call it his pen holder, but it's actually a wand holder on the breast pocket.
Also, I think one of the things that they have at Sticky Zickies is they have an enchanted device that allows you to attune to things instantly instead of taking an hour. Because of course you want people to be able to try stuff or wear it home or just they're excited. They don't want to wait. You don't want have people have to be loitering around cluttering up your lobby if they want to do it there. So just has a little bing, can make it instantly.
Well, just as a musician, I need to take some time to get to know the instrument and the sound and everything. So that's not
Sure.
fully necessary for me, but because I'm going to spend that time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I tried my cloak on and stuff and I checked it out to see how cool it looked, but I also know that the sun is still out, so I put my billowing cloak on over top of it to protect it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because as established, because you have the dark elf version, it doesn't do anything differently. It just looks all gothy, but also if it's exposed to direct sunlight for too long, it will lose its magic.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably a little warm wearing two cloaks, but
Yeah, it's a little toasty.
yeah. All right. What about you, Zinhorn?
Horn is normally wearing that breastplate that we found
Mm-hmm.
from the not so quite dead guy that we might bring back one day.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was kind of Baroque and old school, and now he is extremely shiny and bronze. He's bronze with a second skin of bronze,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very, very shiny and smiling.
Yeah. So I think this
Very
armor,
happy.
this armor doesn't just look like like a silly putty man or anything like that. It's not like that. It does sort of form itself into kind of the shape of plate armor. But certainly anyone observant enough to check closely would see that there are no seams in it. That it doesn't doesn't actually consist of separate pieces the way real plate armor does.
That's pretty amazing. Although a little bright.
And it's very shiny.
And you notice there is definitely a glint in Nedry's eyes as he's kind of like
A little bright.
Yeah.
I
and
like
the glint lingers for a second or two and then it passes.
fish a pair of my sunglasses out and give them to Nedry.
But I think he needs an accessory, right? Because otherwise, the armor and his scales, it's a little matchy, right? He needs something to contrast.
Maybe a scarf
Yeah.
or a hat.
I have this really cool hat.
Is it the one that we got out of the tower?
Yeah, it'll be awesome with that armor.
Yes.
Bronze dragonborn cleric in heavy armor and a old-fashioned goofy wizard hat. Sure. So in any case, the castle is coming in. There are a number of dock personnel who are clearing the landing platform, and you're not allowed nearby while it's coming in for a landing, because it makes sense. I assume you let them do their job. It's for your protection and all. And also, protection of all the expensive cargo. That's probably more important, honestly, to their employers. But as the castle gets close, you actually see that, despite the fact that there's this big sort of propeller underneath and everything kind of glowing, you don't get any sense that there's actually like wind being displaced by this propeller. There's not like an exhaust or anything like that. There is sort of a magical ripple shimmer, but you get the idea that the actual effect of this engine is magical in nature rather than physical in some kind of a turbine. But it comes in, and sure enough, there you have it. It lands, and the dock personnel with their sort of various direction flags wander off to their other business, and you see the front doors open and the stairway extend downward, and you're able to head on over there.
Yeah, as soon as those stairs come out, I am bolting. Like, I'm just straight run, dash. So excited. And then as soon as I get in the front door, I will find the first pillar and give it a great big hug.
Oh, Carolina, it's so good to see you again. And to feel
I'm
you.
so happy to see you. You looked so amazing flying. I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll have to talk about how that all came to be, but I am very happy to be flying again. You wouldn't believe how happy.
But this feel great.
Welcome in, everyone. And as you're coming in, certainly there in the lobby, you have the whole retinue there to greet you. And you, first of all, you see that Lord Relenth himself is there, but he is in some sort of a mechanical chair with wheels on it that seems to have magical apparatus to it, and so he is there in that chair and looks happy to see you. But there's maybe, the observant of you might get the sense that there's a little bit of he's kind of the first time appearing in front of anybody else in this chair.
That is so cool. Where did you get that?
Well, Sora, Shauna, and Sequential made it for me. It's quite adept at getting around, if I don't say so myself. And he sort of just demonstrates that he has controls that he can, do either by hand or with gestures of his head and shoulders, and it actually moves and turns around pretty fast. He doesn't have to just physically do it with his hands all the time, and it can go upstairs.
Wow.
Slowly, but
That's wicked cool.
yeah.
Speaking of Sequential, are they there?
Oh yes, and I was, the whole gang is there. I was just doing one at a time. So Brennan is also there, and he's he's there, starting with little handshakes, but you get the sense that a hug would be returned if you went for one.
Oh, I would absolutely pop into my half work form and be like, "Yeah, buddy, great to see you."
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot you could do that. And then Sorashana and Sequential are standing kind of like off in the corner, but together, and they both sort of wave. And then Evan is there too, looking a little awkward and a little bit like he's glad to see you, but he feels out of place.
I run over and I hug Evan.
Yep, me too.
Yep, group hug.
You made
Andrew's
it.
got his book out and is already writing, but he's sort of thinking at Sorashana and sequential, like back and forth.
It's like, I have a lot of theories to discuss with you, and I don't know what you did with that chair thing, but that was pretty cool.
And there's like thousands of questions already.
Sure,
so
sure.
probably Sorashana's retreating as
Yeah.
far as she can.
So I think that what happens here, we're going to hand wave a little bit of the ins and outs of the logistics of it and everything. But Yobert has arranged for some delivery from a nice restaurant because he is, you know, he has missed his favorite local place. And so food is ordered for everybody. And so let's just have for fun here. Everybody can order like whatever they want. So think about like what fancy fantasy meal you'd be ordering.
Gosh. Everybody's stymied for
Yeah,
and,
I think
and probably
I'm trying
drooling
to-
at this point.
Trying to think up a version of turducken that's got fantasy beast stuffed one inside the other.
Sure. Well, you got
I-
like Axebeak and I don't know.
Owlbear.
I was thinking owlbear, but I don't know.
It's too
I
big.
feel like owlbear is it's a predator. I don't know if you want to eat that.
no.
Probably not. No.
Well, I would imagine there would be this enormous, like, fancy stacked pile of like steamed buns with like a meat kind of inside it, and then maybe some kind of a sauce drizzled artistically down the side.
Very
Some
nice.
green onions sprinkled on the top.
Yeah, I think Zaleen would just get pastries because that's like the first thing that she ate in her life. So that's like what she prefers. So she's got like a big stack of like pastries and donuts and things that, you know, normal people don't eat for dinner.
I imagine there's a stack of fireball meatballs. Then when you eat them, smoke flies out your nose and a little flame flicks out your mouth.
Yeah, I think Brennan has those too. Like he has gotten something that's just really really spicy, but he loves it.
And probably pop rocks that every time you burp, there's a little bubble that floats in the air.
Very nice. I think Yobert has ordered something like it's a special occasion, so he's treating himself to like the uber fancy like pate and you know what's the caviar, you know, like the super silly fancy stuff that you don't get very often, but this feels like a special occasion. And
I'm
despite
just thinking caviar boba tea.
oh, yeah, that's kind of fun. You know, have it in something that, like, the whole thing with caviar is that you kind of don't usually mix it with stuff. It's kind of like a thing, you know, maybe it's on a cracker or something, but that's about it usually. But you could have, theoretically, like some drink that's designed to complement that whole flavor.
Oh, like these actual little floating bubbles that you have to like pick up and you like almost like a soup dumpling that floats.
Oh yeah, like something that like you sort of you sort of activate a little rune on the bowl and it makes them float, and it's like boba tea with you have the thick straw, but you're like sucking them out of the air. I think that Sorashana, despite being able to order anything she wants, gets buttered noodles. That's what she wants.
She's getting chicken nuggets.
Yeah, there you go.
She's that kid. She's getting
Yeah.
some chicken nuggets. That's it.
So in any case, I think the way to handle this scene is that we can assume that this is your opportunity now to tell all the parts of the story that you couldn't really get to when your communication was limited, kind of cover, like, I assume you're going to let them know just kind of this is what's been going on, here's where we stand, here's what's going on, all this stuff, here's what everything that's happened. And that there's just so much that rather than trying to just tell a story from start to finish, you guys can just ask questions and we can kind of cover what's been happening. And if there's anything that you kind of don't think of that I feel like merits mentioning, I'll pop in with it. But otherwise, you just kind of, this is sort of montage of the celebration and catch up dinner.
I want to pass off my old armor and shield to Evan.
Okay. Oh, the
assuming it
breastplate.
hasn't gotten, not the breastplate, because we decided to hold on to that in case we bring
Right,
that guy
okay.
back, but my chainmail
Sure.
and my old shield.
Okay. Nice.
I think I would immediately start like babbling about like Sitzlebeck and just how amazing it was to see this dragon. And we got to talk to him, and we weren't there very long, but oh my gosh. And then he just like poof sent us to this other place, and he told us about this the dead guy that we found in the tower. Oh, did we tell you about the tower? Yeah, when we got to the little village, when we got to Gorn, it's not really a village, it's more of a, you know, a city. But when we got to there, we got this, there was a pig and it ate everything, and we found out what was wrong, and they made it throw up, and there was a tower in there, and oh my, just like on like that.
Mhm. Nice. I think, well, so some of what they've had Sequential and Evan there able to share some of the story, but you know, they separated from you at the observatory, right? So they didn't hear any of the stuff about the elemental plane of fire or the eternal waltz or what happened down there in the fungus and all of that sort of thing. But I think that you've got Sequential and Surashana are just really hitting it off as lab partners. You know, just I think Sequential discovers that, you know, what the adventuring and discovering this place where he was made was all very important and meaningful and everything, but he also does not mind just hanging out in one place working on stuff and researching with someone who also likes to do that. They have one of the things that they share with you is that you know, it was previously established that part of why Sunya hadn't been able to fly in a long time was because it used to be that there were a lot more people in the castle, and it was kind of their all, you know, sort of collective energy that was what let her fly. But Sorashana figured out how to harness the energy from the Midnight Stone to give
Awesome.
her the ability to fly. And it's that, plus, as Sunya explains, the fact that there were people who needed her. She could sense that, and that's part of what helped her as well.
Sunya, do you sleep at all?
There are times when I'm less active, when there's just not really anything to do, but I don't
Well,
sleep like you do.
well, I would just, I'm only asking because we had some trouble with nightmares, so I was concerned if they're using the Midnight Stones because now we know where they come from and what they're made of. I was just kind of worried that maybe integrating that into the castle might cause you some problems.
Sequential was worried about that as well. As far as he and Sorashana have been able to tell, there does not seem to be any kind of a bleed through like that. But if there is anything else that you can do to help us determine if there might be a problem like that, I would be eager to hear it. But I'm certainly excited by the return of my ability to fly.
Nedry, don't you have a new thing that lets you detect nightmares and stuff?
Yeah, well, I still have a little power for today. I can do that if it'd make you feel better, Sunya.
Well, certainly, if there's some kind of a nightmare in me or corruption or whatever you call it, I would like to know.
Well, you seem yourself, so that's good. Most of the time, people are a little bit less themselves.
I feel more like myself than I have in a long time.
Well, that's really good. Okay. I'm not used to this one yet. It's a little bit weird as far as spells go, but I can try.
And he will, in fact, cast Upcast because he
Mhm.
doesn't have those level of spells anymore. Detect Nightmare at 4th level, in
Okay.
fact.
Remind me what the range is for that?
It is 30 feet.
Okay. So I just want to make sure you're not. It's like it's not everything on the whole skyport or something.
No, no, no. And it's also blocked by a foot of stone,
Right.
common metal, that sort of thing.
So you have everybody here in the room, and certainly the room itself is kind of occupied by Sunya, and you do not detect any nightmares present.
It looks good. It looks really good, actually. I should probably inspect where the Midnight Stone actually is just to make sure. But I think it's okay.
I think Sequential says, "Yeah, we've got that down in the in the engine room." I think we're actually good though because uh, as far as I can tell, what we're doing is we're drawing off the energy that has already been stored there, and the whole corruption nightmare exchange piece has already been done for this Midnight Stone. So it's like someone else charged the battery and now we're just using it. So
That's good.
that's not to say that we know everything about it, but as far as I can tell, this doesn't seem to be a new spell. We're using the existing one.
Good. We haven't been able to find too many more. The last one kind of collapsed with the whole realm that was in, but I'm glad to see you've been able to harness it. I wasn't able to figure that part out.
Well, we'll definitely have to compare notes. And then Sorashana points. She holds up the deck of Vidunme cards, which are like tarot cards that you got from Isilde, and says, "And I've done a bit more research on the deck of cards here. We wanted to know more about it. I haven't figured out how to make it just release Isilde, but." Before, the way that it would work is that sometimes if you used it, it would accidentally it could accidentally release one of the other nightmares at random, and they would just appear in a random location. It could be really far away, and they would start attacking people. It's obviously very dangerous, and I haven't figured out how to make it not do that, but I think it's better that I've figured out how to focus it so that at the very least the nightmare appears right nearby so you can deal with it instead of having to hunt it down. I'm sorry, that's not very good.
That's incredible. I was going to think
Wonderful
about getting some sort of
discovery.
pocket dimension involved, but that's an even better solution.
So I still don't have any way to control which creature would get released though.
Well, we've been fighting a lot of them as we've been releasing them from people who had their nightmares cursed. We even fought a big one that came out of a dragon. So,
Well,
That one was really big and tough.
mhm.
wow. I mean, that's maybe good just because here's the thing is that this deck of cards is really really powerful, and obviously it's not great if it's going to just sometimes randomly spit monsters out, but it could be really powerful if you're actually using it, if someone was.
We should make a plan. And maybe if we're going to release them, do it outside of the city where no one would be endangered, and then deal with them. I think it would be very useful.
I think I think that it's possible that because Isilda was the last one to go in there, she might be the last one to come out. But it also might be random.
Hmm.
I'm not
Do you
sure.
know how many entities are in there?
You don't know.
So
No.
here's something that I've been wondering about. These nightmares, are they from here or are they from somewhere else?
So Sorashana suddenly speaks in a slightly different tone of voice that you may recall seems to come from Kosh, this other entity that seems to be with her, and just says, "They come from the plane of dream."
So, in theory, they could be banished back to their own plane, maybe?
In fact, when they are dispatched here, that is what happens to them.
Hmm. Interesting.
Creatures from the plane of dream are not fixed until they travel here or to one of the other physical planes. And so their form is taken as a result of the transfer.
Hmm.
So then banishing them doesn't work.
It returns them to the plane of dream.
Oh, okay. It does work.
So, like the
Interesting.
banishment spell, yeah, would. But what he is
Okay.
saying is that when you destroy one, what you're doing is sending it back to the plane of dream. It's not really dead in the classic sense, much in the same way that devils and demons and so on do.
So does that mean that Tanglefoot and their people are harvesting the plane of dreams?
I believe Tanglefoot is something else.
So, Nedry, I know you said that not everything is related to the heroes of legend, but
Oh, here we go.
so when the heroes broke time, right? Um,
Allegedly.
they did a thing that like removed this in our planes of existence from the ineffable forces of chaos and order, that kind of thing. What if what if these like tangle feet people are the chaos people?
Well, they quite literally are chaos, but um, I don't know. I know enough about them. Their magic is chaotic. They do things with dreams. They seem to want to cause chaos, but they also want to, I don't know, take over order, weirdly.
Which is what chaos does, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if chaos wants to control order so much as destroy it.
But isn't that what they're doing?
Maybe.
Chaos replaces order, so in order to not I'm confused.
Sorashana's head suddenly sort of drops almost like she's falling asleep, but then, jerks back up, that whole sort of like, oh, and she just says, oh, I think Kosha's done for now.
Are
I tell
you
him thank
okay?
you.
Me?
Are you feeling okay?
She hides under the table. But then from under the table says, yes.
I love her. So if I was just going to say, like, because of what Lynn is saying, if the Tangle foot people, Tangle feet, whatever, if they are like these agents of chaos, does that mean that they're opposite out there somewhere that we haven't come across yet?
Well, he did say that I was like him, but the opposite. I don't know what that means, though. It's a little unnerving.
So you're an agent of order?
I
Is
don't.
that what he was
I don't
saying?
feel like that's true.
I don't either.
Which is why I don't really understand what he meant. But
Maybe more of the shape shifting than anything else.
it felt different. But he's not here anymore to ask him what he meant. So
Well, he probably wouldn't tell you the truth anyway.
well, I don't think he ever lied. He omitted a lot of stuff, but I don't think anything he said was a lie.
I'm a little worried as to where he might be now.
You could probably scry on him.
I can't, but it might be possible. We might not be on this plane for all we know.
Evan raises his hand and says, I have a question.
Yes.
whatever happened to taking down the empire? I mean,
Well,
we're
you
like
see,
working for them now, or wait, what?
it
I don't know what's happening anymore.
We never taking down
apparently
the empire.
it was a really big misunderstanding. Nedry, I'll handle this. It was a really big misunderstanding. We thought that they were trying to kill us and do bad things to us when really they just kind of wanted to talk to us and figure out what we knew. They just kind of went about it the wrong way. And like I said that to the friend of the emperor, and he was like, no, I agree. Like, we just didn't do it the right way.
I think as you're saying that, Yobert gives you a little bit of eye contact where he's not like speaking up about it, but he's kind of giving you the impression of like, it's a little, it's kind of a little all of those things.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, we don't like, what's the point in fighting with them? If we work with them, maybe we can come to understand exactly what's going on.
It's a little disappointing, though. I mean, they really didn't know anything.
Yeah, Nedry was in his heyday,
Well,
like telling them all the things they didn't know. It was
Well, it's
good for
important.
Nedry.
I don't feel like they don't know anything. Part
They
of me
didn't seem to know
wonders if
much.
maybe we haven't asked the right questions. But I think for the moment our goals align, which is to, you know, save the world, basically, right?
Yeah.
So at least in that much, we don't have to destroy each other right now. We can be friends. I like friends. Friends are better.
Yobert says, despite my upbringing, I have never been especially adept or in tune to the finer nuances of imperial politics. I do know that when all of this was first going down, a lot of it was giving me the hair on the back of my neck standing up, so to speak. A lot of it felt off to me.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, however, that the situation is a lot more complex than any sort of idea of the evil empire, or, for that matter, the good and noble virtuous empire.
Yeah.
I think it is a mistake for us to think of the empire as one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't really know, like, does the empire actually know what's going on, like the actual empire, or is it just this shadow faction that's working, you know, in their favor, saying we're doing this for the good of the empire? Like the friend of the emperor, I asked him like 4 times, how are you and the emperor friends? And he never answered me. So how do we know he really is? We don't.
Yes, certainly the history of the title Friend of the Emperor is a bit fraught. There have been people who have wielded that title in a variety of ways. I don't know this particular individual well, but at the very least, I've gotten some notifications that the things that he promised to you seem to be happening. He did seem willing to go through official channels to some degree. All of you spoke with him, and frankly, the thing that leads, essentially, my faith in the man comes entirely from your impression of him. So the point just being, I would have no reason to trust him whatsoever, except that you, having met him, seem to believe that he's at least worth working with.
I think that at the moment, it's beneficial to both parties for us to work together.
It doesn't mean that we trust them, but at the same time, they're actually going to send someone else with us to spy on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
does anybody else have a problem with that? That makes me uncomfortable.
Well, obviously we have to wait and see. I haven't been able to get any information so far over who it might be that he would send, but I doubt that he would send someone who would actively interfere. But I suppose we'll have to see. To be frank, I am astounded that you all have arranged as good a deal as you have. The idea that we would be allowed to direct our own actions at only the cost of having to bring someone along seems like quite a bit more than I would have expected we could arrange.
Well, this is I think probably what he has come to learn is that this whole business is a lot more dangerous than maybe they suspected at first. And it's better to have you ever heard the phrase canary in a coal mine?
Yes.
It's a bit like
Well,
that, I think.
I think it's a little bit more that they need us more than we need them. Like I said, they really don't know that much, and we've accumulated a lot of knowledge and experience.
But I think what Lynn is saying though is that by sending us ahead and learning what to expect, they will learn what they need to know, whether we are sacrificed in the process or not.
They have
I
nothing
don't-
to lose by helping us, really.
Yeah. And like once we get to where we're going, if what they want is there and we are in their way, I don't think they'll hesitate to get rid of us.
Yeah, they have that nice little squad of evil mage collectors.
I
Yeah.
Already
I
met.
have mixed feelings about it because I really do like to believe the best of people. And I don't think that on their own they would do anything detrimental to the world in general. Um, there may be outside influences that shape their decisions, such as, oh, I don't know, a cursed circlet that somebody puts on their head, for example.
It was
Um,
mostly fine.
Like,
Mostly.
okay, let's not talk about that today.
um, but I don't, I have very distinct impression that whatever happens, I believe the friend of the emperor's intentions are good.
I I think that there are a great many people in the Imperial Council and the levels of government that are there for certainly um, reasons that their motivation is sincere in desiring the best for the empire and its people. However, certainly in my experience, that can mean a lot of different things. For example, how willing they are to put the needs of the empire's people above the needs of non-imperial citizens.
Small-minded politicians should never be involved in research. No, that was something Master always said.
Well, I think it's important to just keep in mind that we shouldn't paint everyone with the same broad brush.
Yes, I believe that that is an excellent mindset to hold as we move forward with this new partnership. I think we should we would at our peril assume that all of the people in the empire are working to the same ends for the same reasons.
There are
So that
probably a few
being-
nightmares involved.
So that being said, Evan, let's not talk about Down with the Empire out loud, like ever again. Especially if we're going to have like a secret super spy among us, it's probably better if we don't talk about, let's tear the empire down.
But So is it still happening, but we're just not talking about it because it's a secret? Or are we not doing it anymore?
I don't.
It's more like putting everything on pause.
Yeah,
Put it on hold.
Yeah.
Hmm.
like
There's
we don't know
bigger things
what's
to worry about.
happening.
Deep
Right.
cover.
Sort of, but like it's just super hush hush, and we don't know what's going to happen. So as things unfold, we might return to that. But right now, it's sort of on the back burner with a lid on it.
I mean,
Cold
for all
War.
we know, in like tomorrow, somebody activates that tower and blows up half the world. We don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to
So-
ask about that.
Yeah.
What was the state of the tower when you left it?
The observatory.
Yeah.
Sequential kind of explains we didn't stick around very much longer after Evan and I escaped and got up to Sunia because we were still getting chased by the Imperial airships at that point. But we managed to close the portal to the fireplane completely. I think that they would have had a really hard time getting that reopened without, certainly I don't know of any way that they could do it in less than a year at minimum, and even that's a stretch.
What about any instructions? Did you
I mean, we
take
didn't
them with
burn
you
all
or
the books or
destroy them?
anything.
Or
I,
don't-
we were in a hurry. We did what we could to try to damage a lot of the machinery, but we were kind of being chased out.
The Denetherian language that they were using is really hard to decipher, so it will take them a long time to figure it out.
Hmm.
Yeah. A lot of
Something
those
to-
books were Rupinos.
Let's
Yeah.
discuss how we're going to keep secrets from the spy.
What if we just don't have any? I mean, I don't feel like we're going to do anything that is going to cause a problem. We're going to do what we were going to do anyway, right?
Yeah, but if we need to actually not say maintain some privacy among ourselves because we're suspicious of the spy and what they might report, if that happens, I was thinking that as long as they can't detect thoughts, we could figure out a way of signaling Nedry to talk mind to mind with us, and he could relay those things.
In my experience with secrets, the fewer there are, the easier they are to keep. And the fewer lies you tell, the easier it is to keep track of them. Not that I like to lie. I hate having to lie, but sometimes it's very necessary for survival.
It is possible to make a space that would be safe to discuss things, so long as they weren't there. It would take me a bit of time each day, but I could, I don't know, make a room that was safe here. No one could spy on it. No one could even hear what was said outside.
And that's assuming that Lord Yobert's coming with us, right? I mean,
Actually-
our
At the suggestion, you might not be, Nedry's face just drops because it's like,
like,
what?
is everyone coming? Because I is Sunia gonna come with us?
Sunia says, I would be absolutely thrilled to fly you anywhere that you want to go. That is, of course, on the material plane and within my range. I would be hesitant perhaps to just sail off into the ocean with no known destination again. But, and Yobert says, I think we can absolutely travel as a castle in the places where that would be feasible.
Well, that's a
Well, 'cause I
relief
think
because
really we really just have to go to we never did get to
Emersham.
where we were going.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think we're very good at
Yep.
booking our own packages after all.
yeah. And like we should never ever think about going to a library because we will never get there. That's the one thing we've learned.
It won't end well if we do.
Yeah, and if we do go there, it's bad. Just bad. So we could do that here. I mean, we could also utilize the tower, like within Sunya. I don't see why we couldn't just go into the tower if we wanted privacy.
Okay.
Only people that are allowed to come in there can come in there. So what if we just don't invite this other person in?
Okay.
And since it's kind of in like its own little pocket dimension, then it's harder to
Scry.
spy.
Mhm.
I mean, we can also talk in the bag whenever we need to, in case the tower's too conspicuous.
We could go in the bag while we're in the tower
I'm
and
not
be
so
like
sure mixing those
doubly
two.
protected. We've done it before. You've gone in there while we've been in the tower.
But we didn't make the tower bigger on the inside of the bag. That might not go well.
No, I mean, you could take the bag into never mind.
Oh yeah, yeah, that seems to work.
We don't want to put the tower in the bag and open. No, that doesn't seem like it would work.
You know, if you want to turn
Okay.
reality inside out.
I mean, maybe that's what we need to do. We don't
Eventually.
know.
Eventually, that's the backup plan: is we just
Yeah.
turn reality inside out and pull the ripcord and phew, goodbye world.
We'll
All
show
right.
those heroes of legend.
They think they can break reality.
No, see, it turns out reality is reversible. It has a whole other color on the inner lining.
Control Z. Control Z.
So where are we going? Where are we going next? Emerson?
Yeah.
How do we want to get there? Train? Flying
Yes.
castle? Walk?
I thought Sunia was going to take us there.
It will be rather
Oh,
obvious.
Suni
so we
is
might
like,
not
I
want to.
suppose you could take a train if you wanted to.
I don't want
He
to.
would not.
We need to introduce them to Buster.
Yeah, is Buster in the tower?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I would imagine you've been carrying Buster around in the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's again, we can imagine just kind of a montage of you let Buster out, and he promptly decides that he's got the giant gray render zoomies, and he starts just tearing around all up and down the hallways, up and down the stairs, all over the place, and Sunia is giggling all the while like it tickles.
Aw.
As long as
I
he
will
doesn't
be
start
running
chewing
with
on
him.
you.
I bet he ate all the leftovers too.
Should probably keep the workshop doors closed.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Um,
the engine room and the library and most of the doors.
And the
actually.
corpse garden, because he likes to chew on bones. So
He likes to chew on everything.
yeah.
well, he does get bored. We have to make some really, really big scratching posts for him.
Mhm. Yep.
So another question, I suppose, is, let's say we are flying Sunia to Emersham. The question is, when? Is there a rush?
We
We
have,
have a brunch date tomorrow.
yeah, we have to meet with our spy friend.
In the meta, part of what I'm asking here is you could all decide, we could do like downtime. You know what I mean? Like if you wanted to spend some downtime doing some of those actions, preparing things here in Pashan before you travel, we could absolutely do that. So it's basically you kind of, you have brunch date tomorrow, but then you're kind of on your own to decide.
I could use some time to research some spells. There's a lot of them I
Yeah.
don't know yet.
Yeah, and I mean, that would also, like, if we take some time, maybe we could understand some of the other things that we've been trying to figure out. Especially since we haven't had access to them, like the weird mirror and
maybe we could try the cards once outside of the city.
Yeah.
You
Not
know?
until then.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of theories to catch up with Sunya and Sequential. I'm afraid they may have
Sorashana?
lost me on some of those things. Or Starshana, yes.
It's been a while.
I know.
Soroshana says, "Don't worry, I forget sometimes too."
She's still under the table.
Yeah, yeah. Occasionally, you see a hand reaching up around and grabbing another nugget and coming back under the table.
That's why I write everything down.
So
All right.
yeah, we can take time.
So we can absolutely
All right.
do that. But so I think perhaps the plan then is that you'll stay the night here in the castle, have brunch in the morning, and then maybe we imagine a week of downtime and just we see what y'all get up to.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
great. So everybody gets all bundled off to bed, and here's where each of you in your sleep or your respective trance begin to have a bit of a dream. And we, yes. Zinhorn, tell me what you are dreaming of before this new thing happens.
Sandhorn is dreaming of uh, like being in a hospital and helping people who are hurt, and he's just in this endless corridor, and he's like keeps trying to help people, and he keeps getting told that, like there's one more piece of paperwork, and oh, you need to move this box, and he just can't. He's very frustrated by not being able to do what he wants to do. But that's like his normal dreams. Nothing gets done.
So as you are experiencing that frustration in that dream, the warmth that you experienced when Solomonia reached out to each of you sort of comes back, and you start feeling it, and you're looking down this long hallway, and it's just suddenly you realize, oh no, the patient that needs my help is at the other end of this long hallway, but now there's all these strange like obstacles in the way, like there's a bunch of crates and empty beds and weird little sort of shadowy creatures that seem to be blocking the hallway, trying to prevent you from getting there. And you just suddenly realize you have the power to just sprint and just plow through them like there's nothing there. And you realize that you have been given the boon of the Juggernaut. So once per day, you can use your action to take an empowered dash, which must be at least 30 feet in a straight line. But during this burst, you can pass through the spaces of enemy creatures without taking opportunity attacks. And all enemies that you pass through must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or be either knocked prone or pushed 10 feet away from the line.
Ooh.
And that's...
I'm going to try it out in the dream.
As you do, you just start running, and you realize just with pure will, you become an unstoppable force, plowing through all these obstacles that are just slammed against the wall out of your way, and you make your way to the...
With my arms out behind me. All right.
Or what, Naruto running me? Is that what Well, you've got the wings, too, so it's like double back there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yes, you know now that Solomonia has granted you the boon of the Juggernaut, and I'll send you that text separately.
Cool.
So, Zaylene, you, of course, only go into your trance rather than full sleep, but what are you reminiscing or thinking about in your trance?
I'm thinking about the last time that I dreamed of my mistress, and that feeling that I had when I was there in her embrace, just that calm peacefulness surrounded by the darkness. And
So I think what starts to intrude on that feeling are memories of when Percival was there and then escaped, and when Tanglefoot was there and then escaped, and all of a sudden there in the memory feel as though you could, while they're in your presence, mark them and then know where they are. And you realize that you've been given Boon of the Pursuer. Once per day, you can cast Hunter's Mark at 5th level, which means you can hold concentration on it for 24 hours without expending a spell slot.
Ooh. That's exciting.
Carolina, what are you dreaming about?
I think she's gone back to Emrit Arboris, only she is walking the streets with her mentor, Siona. And Siona's telling her about all of these places and hearing little snippets of song and just replaying her visit in her mind, really.
Very nice. I think the thought that starts to, um, intrude on that is just suddenly a little bit of a subtle paranoia as you pass through this crowd there of just realizing, like, all of these people you're passing, are they what they seem to be? How could you tell, right? They could be in disguise, they could be shape changed. Who knows what could happen? We could be invisible or sneaking up in the ethereal plane. And as you're sort of realizing suddenly that you wish you would be able to see all of these things, you start being able to see all of those things. And you realize that Solomonia has given you the boon of discernment. You now have true sight out to a range of 10 feet.
Cool.
All right. And Nedry.
Well, probably as usual, Nedry has fallen asleep on his textbook,
Sure.
but then it feels kind of strange
Hmm.
as he realizes he's fallen asleep on a bank of snow. He finds himself on that mountainside where the observation tower was, and the snow keeps piling up around him, but he finds it kind of comforting. And then a blast of wind blows him off the side of the mountain, which he finds himself floating on the cold breeze, kind of laughing.
Hmm. And so, along with that dream, I think that there's probably an element to which you have sort of a vague recollection of leaving behind what you had with Master Fenster, and I think that there's a thought maybe that happens in there where it feels a little bit embarrassing, a little bit frustrating. Where I think there was some instance where you had been asked to prepare certain spells for the day for him, and there was just a mix up, and you had the wrong spells prepared, and he was really upset and frustrated with you. But you realize now, wait, I think I can remember anyway. And you realize that this new feeling is actually because Solomonia has given you the boon of recall. Once per day, you can cast any spell you know without a spell slot, whether you have it prepared or not. And then you are returned to your wintry Wonderland dream. And then, as each of you finish your long rest, you are now officially leveled up. And you have those boons. I'll send you the text separately because we're not likely to use them this time. But you wake up with knowledge of those boons, and that it's just something you can do now.
Mechanically, that boon of discernment, is
Mhm.
that true sight to 10 feet like all the time?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That is really cool.
I think it well, so how about this? You have it's at will. Like it's not by default on all the time, but you don't need a spell slot for it or anything. You can kind of just sort of concentrate and have it happen. Like not concentrate mechanically, but like,
Right, right, right.
you know how to squint just
Think
right.
about it a little
Yeah,
bit. Mhm.
yeah. So it requires conscious intent, but not any other mechanical cost.
So what level are we now?
11.
11?
Yeah. So, does anyone wake up feeling any different in a way that we should discuss?
Oh, I'm going to immediately try it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So as soon as I sit up in bed, I'm just going to like squint a little funny and
I
Damn, I'm revealed as a goblin finally.
So I think one of the things that you would discover when you are looking around with True Sight, first of all, is that the room that you're in is like it's not got a whole lot of things that look different with True Sight.
well, I think I would look in the mirror to see what
Yeah.
I look like.
Well, that's what I was just going to say is that you realize that when you concentrate on it, you realize you can see your sort of innate form underneath your current form.
Probably
like-
spend the rest of the day walking around the castle squinting at
Right,
everything.
So specifically with True Sight, you can, within 10 feet of you, see in both normal and magical darkness. You can see invisible creatures and objects, automatically detect visual illusions and succeed on saving throws against them, and perceive the original form of a shape changer or creature that is transformed by magic. And you can see into the ethereal plane for 10 feet.
What does she see when she looks at me? The same thing? Do I look the
I
same?
think, I think you have an aura.
Yeah, it's like a shadow.
Yeah.
It'd be weird
Oh,
if the
you
real
know what?
alien
How about
disappears and
this?
just the shadows
I
left.
what I was just going to say is when you have your sort of True Sight activated, Zayleen's shadow in the room stops moving in matching ways. Like it starts moving, doing its own thing.
Independently.
Right. It's still attached at her feet, so to speak, but it's sort of like
It's a-
animated differently now.
It's like standing behind me dancing and stuff.
What?
That's fabulous.
Very
Mhm.
cool.
Hey,
Be
Navy.
That'll
really
keep me
funny
entertained
if
for the
your
entire day.
if your shadow was doing disco while you were all goth.
shadows in glittery colors.
Yes.
The shadows
Yes.
like the shadow likes 80s new wave.
So, Nedry, do you have anything that you wanted to get into?
Yeah, I think kind of walking around, looking at things, feeling a little bit weird. Kind of over breakfast, I would imagine that he's just sort of he's pondering things, and maybe the dream stuck with him. And you see him reach for a muffin just on the breakfast table, and you notice that the back of his hand has this weird sort of pattern on it, sort of curved silvery lines across the back of his hand, which he doesn't seem to notice, but others might see.
I think Sorashana, just passing you on the hallway, says, "Your hands look weird."
Really?
He holds his palm up, doesn't see anything wrong with it.
What do you mean weird?
She's already like down the hall. She was on her way somewhere else.
Okay, next time.
She's still eating nuggets behind her mask. As she's walking.
A nugget ingestion port that she's added onto the mask.
Mhm. She invented it.
little shelf that she.
Yes.
Nugget shelf.
So, was anyone asking about it? Like, I'm trying
Probably
to
not.
facilitate. Okay. All right. So, you're all getting ready for brunch then.
Oh, yes.
All right. Okay. So, I'm just hesitating because I thought, Starla, you were about to ask something and then you kind of didn't, and I wasn't sure if you were.
Oh no, it was like when Mark was talking about that thing on his hand, I was like, oh, I saw it.
Okay. Well, so so like Carolina saw it, but is not saying anything.
Yeah,
about it.
well,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, if anybody's noticed her strange behavior, like squinting at things like all
Okay.
day, like that's up to y'all.
Okay.
She's looking at everything.
So in any case, I think there is a restaurant not too far from the base of the Skyport Tower. That's where you've been asked to meet your your new attaché. I think I'm using that word
All
right.
right.
Yeah, that's basically it. They're spies without actually being spies. Or attaché to the Pashanian government.
Liaison.
Our friend of the friend of the friend of the emperor.
All right. So I think the four of you go down there. Let's. How about everybody contribute a detail to this brunch place?
It has like a big waterfall, like inside the doors when you first walk in, like one of those wall waterfalls, just constantly raining.
Nice.
But it
It's
has
got
like
lots of.
Go ahead.
It's got lots of little narrow shelves all the way around, and they have little porcelain figurines of elves and gnomes and dwarves, like little adventuring parties and road work parties, and just
I heard adventuring
little
Barbies, and that's
figurines.
all I'm thinking of now. Adventuring Barbies.
adventuring Barbies. Yes.
I'm definitely seeing the floor having like those black and white tiles.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
I have a feeling that it's an upper scale place, so a lot of the dishes are moving on their own, and they may or may not be unseen servants or just
True.
a factor of the place.
Animated
Ooh.
dishes.
Oh, I could verify.
But would
If
you
one
tell
goes
us
past
that?
and I squint at it, what do I see?
Yeah, I think that they are unseen servants, which are not like fully rendered sort of humanoid shapes because they're really just sort of
They're like
just an
shimmery things.
invisible swirl of magical energy, but you see it.
That's so cool.
It's not the
What?
same as like detect magic, but like you see
right.
sort of an invisible presence that is what's conjured by the spell.
As you say that, I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Oh,
I know
just
that
like-
waterfall is pretty amazing, but like, it's not that cool.
You know,
Who are we here to meet? Is there like a hostess?
I was just
Or a
thinking
host
like
station?
I was imagining some rude person at a nearby table saying, "What? You never seen a floating plate before?" Just that you're staring. Come on, act like you've been someplace.
Can't take me anywhere.
You've been told to meet the person there, and that they know you, so, or they'll find you. So I think you're there not too long, and like I would say, a very prompt 5 minutes ahead. So first of all, I guess let me rewind a little bit. You've been told to meet them there at 10. When do you arrive?
Probably a little early because to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be in is is unacceptable.
Mhm.
He probably had to get Nedry more than once. He's like, okay, we're leaving in 10 minutes, still reading through the book. Leaving in 5 minutes, still reading through the book.
I think
Leaving now, carrying the book along as trying to read and walk at the same time.
I think that we've been traveling with Nedry long enough that we would have started telling him that like an hour before we were supposed to be there. We'd be like, okay, we're leaving in 10 minutes. So that way, by the time we were actually
Mhm.
ready to
Mhm.
leave,
We've learned how to talk in
mhm.
Nedry time.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think what happens is that, you get there, like 5-10 minutes ahead of time, and you go ahead and you get a table that's reservation was made for you. And you've just kind of gotten settled at the table and start looking around like you're expecting someone to come in when an Aarakocra woman who was sitting just inside the door when you came in stands up and walks over, and she is a peacock Aarakocra, but like a female peacock, so not quite as like brightly colored as the males, but she's still got that weird little feather, little
A peahen, actually.
peahen. Well, there you go. Good point. It's peahen then, but she's got the weird little like the little feather, diddly bobs on her head, and some like blue and green plumage around her neck, but then mostly the feathers are brown. And she is wearing sort of like a very sort of prim button down white shirt and those khaki like stirrup pants. You know the ones that kind of have the weird like wide hips on them. And she, until once you got settled, you had just passed her by, but then once you get settled, she comes over and says, "Hello, I am to meet you here today. My name is Ivy Pennythorpe, and I am tremendously excited to be joining your expedition."
Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. Oh, and I will pull out a business card. I'm Carolina.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Yes, I'm Ivy. Oh, I said that already, didn't I? I am though. I am Ivy Pennythorpe. Um, may I sit?
Oh, please.
And she pulls out a chair and sits as well, and just says, "So, I have been briefed on each of you, but my mother taught me manners, so I have introduced myself, Carolina."
Sinhorn.
Lovely to meet you, Zinhorn.
I'm Zaylene.
Lovely to meet you as well, Zaline.
No, elbow Nedry. Introduce
What?
yourself.
Oh, hi.
Ah, Nedry. Thank you. Lovely
Yeah,
to meet
yep.
you.
Okay. Back
I
to
reach
reading.
over and like close Nedry's book.
But
and,
I
like,
was
and I put
I
my
was in the
hand
middle
on
of-
top of his, and I
in
just
the middle
pat-
of a paragraph.
I just
You
pat
notice
it.
that Nedry's hand is very cold.
Why are your hands so cold? And I like rub the top of it a little bit. Like,
I'm fine. What? Don't. I was in the middle of a paragraph.
you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Right.
Well, I suppose introductions are in order. I have a bit of a leg up at the moment, just been in that I've been given a briefing, but I suppose it's now my turn. So, let me tell you about myself. I grew up in Akka, the shining jewel city of the elemental plane of air, and I completed my undergraduate studies at the Wind Duke's own library with a focus on religions and history of the planes. After leaving home, I've gone on a rather roundabout tour, studied a bit with the Githzerai in the churn of limbo, and then had the privilege of accompanying a diplomatic envoy to the Githyanki city of Karakteth of the Astral Sea. Then I spent some time in Elysium and was quite lucky to have my time in the Fey courts reduced to a snap upon my return. I recently completed my doctorate at Bashan Imperial University with the thesis on the mutual influences between the Feywild, the material plane, and the Shadowfell. Since then, I've been performing contract translations for the Empire, but I've been quite itching to get back in the field, so believe me, when I was briefed on this particular expedition, I dare say I jumped at the chance.
I think Nedry's eyes are wide and his mouth has fallen open.
I'll kind of like
Yeah.
Oh,
lean to Zaleen. Is like, we got another one.
nice to meet you.
And he'll actually go over and extend
two
his
of
hand.
them.
Nice to meet you.
She shakes it
I'm
again.
Nedry. Nedry
Yes,
Shiny Rock.
Nedry.
Apprentice, but I'm working on it.
Oh, well, I dare say you've accomplished a great many things more than I would expect of an apprentice.
Oh, well, I've had field experience, I guess you might say, although I never officially received my degree, but I figure it's somewhat along the same lines. I have been published, although I'm not sure if Tessotam is considered quite the publication it once was. I'm working on that too.
Well, if I may share just a little bit of a secret, what I have discovered in my academic pursuits is that upper level universities tend to produce one of two kinds of people: the people who find the degrees they have obtained to be tremendously important, and the ones who know that they're no longer that important.
Oh,
It's kind of just paper to put on the wall. It represents a lot of hard work and knowledge, of course, but the paper itself doesn't mean as much as the knowledge gained. In my opinion, anyway, there are some that certainly feel that the piece of paper is where it's at.
I lean over to Carolina and I'm like, what language are they speaking?
well, it's always nice to be recognized by your peers and to.
And Nedry looks extraordinarily nervous. She has to make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh dear. Okay. Hang on. Let me pull up her stats. I didn't have them up because I didn't expect.
And Zinhorn recognizes that in amongst the speech, the babble that Nedry's going through right now, there's Draconic. And it's kind of a nervous, accented Draconic that sounds something like, I need to cool down. She's so cool. I don't understand what's happening.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm not fluent in this language, but I think it's called book nerd.
She got a just a 10 on her Constitution save.
Okay. A light frost forms around her shoulders. She takes 4 cold damage.
Oh,
And
my.
Nedry's kind of just sort of transfixed at the moment.
I hope I haven't offended Nedry.
What? No.
And
I'm
there's
gonna
also
grab him and, like, put
simultaneously
him back in his chair.
there's simultaneously like a babble going on in her head as he's also subconsciously talking to her telepathically.
Oh,
So
my.
every other word is coming out to everyone, and the other words are coming only to her. It gets very
Goodness.
confusing.
Well, there's no need to be flustered, Nedry. I'm the newcomer here after all.
Well, I'm sorry. That's never. I don't. I have a lot to learn. Excuse me.
And he'll just turn and poof, go. We leave the table. He's left his book behind too, which is probably a bit of a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
That was weird.
Oh,
he
goodness.
is weird.
Yes,
That was bizarre.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, yes, I'll be fine. It gave me a bit of a start, but I'll be fine. Yes, of course.
I've never seen him do that before. It's very
I-
strange.
I cast healing word on her.
Oh, thank you very much, dear. But I suppose just to it seemed like there was a bit of a mishmash of languages in there. For my own part, I speak 9 languages, and although I'm not a magic practitioner myself, I am adept at arcana studies, in addition, of course, to my focus on religion and history. But lest you suppose that academics are all I bring to the table, my years on the Akar Wind Lacrosse team made me a bally agile flyer, if I do say so myself. Good with a team and skilled with a stick. And she sort of
Oh.
gestures that she has like a little, like sort of a, it's like a long quiver that has like javelins in it. And she says, I've not seen a terrible lot of direct combat, but I've got a keen eye, have been trained in self-defense, and I know I've rather been assigned to you, rather than you requesting me yourselves, but I'm confident that if you give me a chance, I will prove myself to you, and I'm quite eager to begin.
Well, that's good. We're not going to be leaving immediately. we're actually going to be taking about a week of downtime because we've been on the road for, I don't even know how long it's been, ages.
Feels like forever.
Months.
Yeah, and really it was
Tired.
probably only like 6 days, but
I think it was a little longer than that because we had some other travel,
couple weeks,
periods.
yeah.
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 Mhm. Oh, yes, I quite understand. I mean, I understand that your flying castle only just got back into town last night. I must say, I'm extraordinarily excited to see that. We have many flying castles in the airplane, after all, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the material plane flying castles stack up.
Well, that actually, you've covered so many of my questions already. I was actually wondering. So, in the meantime, because we will be traveling via Sunya, the castle, whom you will meet. She's very nice.
Oh, lovely.
At what point would you want to come on board and meet her and get settled?
Well, so while I find it completely understandable that all of you would need a little bit of decompression time or preparation before we would depart again, I am rather ready to go. So if you have anything for me to do at all, I would be available. If you have just anything, if I could perhaps conduct interviews with you over the course of the week, just a little bit at a time, or if you have anything that you would like me to read up on in the meantime. I am at your service.
Well, I think a little bit of time spent, getting to know everyone. I think that's probably wise. Although when we first met, it was sort of we were just sort of thrown into battle right away, which was crazy. And I don't necessarily recommend it. I don't think it works for everybody, but in our case, it did. Um, but since you're new, perhaps you would like to come and get to know everyone first. A few of us are a little less adept with social graces than others, and certain people, such as uh, blanking on her name. It's been a long time.
Sorashana.
Sorashana, yes.
Mhm.
In particular, Sorashana is quite shy and really likes her own personal space, and so you must be very mindful of this.
Oh, yes. Well, I appreciate the uh, heads up, so to speak.
All right.
I
You
certainly hope to, uh, I don't expect to just come in and make myself at home right away. I understand that I'm a guest.
do you have any questions for us? I
Well,
mean, you said you were briefed, but that
yes,
doesn't always cover everything.
I
I'm
certainly
very curious as
do.
to what you were told.
Yeah.
Well, I was given a brief highlight dossier on each of you, and just without getting into all of the finer points on it, I was told that you were expecting to do some kind of a excavation, perhaps, of a temple out Emersham way, and that this has to do with the potential artifacts from an ancient lost city.
Correct. But perhaps if we get into those finer points, maybe we should do that elsewhere.
Yes, quite.
Um, well, I think maybe more specifically, did you have any questions about us personally before, we go off and get started? You should trust who you travel with, right? I don't know
Well,
what you were
of
told.
course, of course. I did mention interviews. Not to put a final point on it, I have a list for each of you.
A list of questions or things that you
Yes,
know about us? Oh,
questions. Questions.
well, I don't know where Nedry went, but
I'll go find
Yes, is
Nedry.
he all right?
Make sure he's okay.
Yes.
I think he's having a. I've never seen him quite so flustered. It was kind of adorable.
Well, I found it somewhat endearing so long as it does not represent some sort of a nasty turn.
Oh,
Uh,
oh no, no, no! I don't think it's that at all. I just
no,
think that it's.
I, yes, I must confess, I'm a little bit nervous myself. This is, of course, I've been on field expeditions before, but it is not usually a circumstance where I'm joining an existing group as the new party member, so to speak.
Well, I think in Nedry's case, it's more of a being overwhelmed by your list of credentials. You found them very impressive.
It was a bit much, wasn't it? I wanted to make sure that I made it clear that I believe I do have something to offer when it comes to expeditions of temples and searches for lost cities.
Well, I would expect nothing less from our mutual friend um, when he said he was sending someone along with us.
Oh, yes, that gentleman is quite intense, isn't he?
He's a lot.
Yes.
You mentioned that you were a very accomplished flyer.
Ah, yes.
Have you ever given lessons?
Well, I have not, but I do see your wings. I would absolutely adore a flying partner.
I have
I-
basic skills, self-taught, and would like to learn some of the finer points.
Well, as it happens, I have a number of my old wind lacrosse drills that we could run together if you would like.
That would be lovely, yes.
They have to be modified just a little bit. I don't know if you know this about the elemental plane of air, but gravity is subjective there. It's a matter of will. You can choose your own down at any time. So, growing up there and then coming to every other place where that's not true has been a bit of an adjustment, but certainly a lot of the lessons remain the same. You just don't get to choose where your down is.
Okay. I already know where down is. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't need it at a high rate of speed.
He's
Yes,
gotten
well,
really good at down.
Yes.
seems you already know lesson one.
Yes.
Do I find Nedry?
Where did you run off to?
He ran off to the washroom,
Okay.
just sort of some privacy.
I
don't
feel
know.
like I'm not sure Zaleen is the sort of person who would really balk at like a men's room door.
No, she's not.
Yeah.
So I would probably just barge in.
Okay. I'm imagining kind of this is the fancy place, right? So
Mhm.
they have the water jug for your hands. Maybe it's a perpetual water jug, but it's in pieces on the floor. And Nedry's kind of looking at it with astonishment and kind of looking at the mirror. And you'd see his reflection in the mirror, and you can see that there's a definite glint in his eyes, a sort of silver edge around the edges of his eyes. And he's kind of holding out his hands towards the broken pitcher, and you can see very distinct silver half moon circles on the backs of his hands. He seems
What?
quite confused.
What is happening to you?
I didn't mean to. I mean, it just sort of broke. I was washing my hands and splashing my face, and it felt really nice and cold. And then it kind of, the water froze for a moment, and then the whole thing kind of broke. I don't know if I can fix it. It's not the kind of spell that I normally am used to.
Did you put on another, did you put on some weird cursed ring or something that you
No.
didn't tell us about?
Unless this robe is cursed.
Kind of digging away at this brand new robe that he's just gotten.
It looked just normal in the rack. I wanted a simple one. I didn't want anything fancy. I mean, maybe it was reaching too far with the little holder for my pen, but it kind of made sense for me.
Can I cast detect magic to see like the source of this?
No. Yeah.
No.
I'm kidding.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna do that to see if I can figure out like where this that's happening to him is coming from.
Yeah, I don't think you would see any sort of like a spell or any other sort of magical effect like currently like on him, like from external purposes, like not anything doing something to him.
I think the only thing you might detect is the remnant of cold magic.
Mm-hmm.
which I believe is evocation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just clarifying, specifying, adding
That's
detail.
weird. Where do you,
I don't feel cursed, but then again, I don't think I felt cursed before. Feel
It-
kind of weird though.
I felt kind of weird when I woke up this morning too. Like, if I really wanted to, I could pretty much track down anybody.
Oh, can you find Tanglefoot?
No, I think I would have had to like
Yeah,
tag him when I saw him
Mhm.
at that
Oh.
moment, and then he would have to be like within a certain range of me.
well, so actually, once you have tagged someone, they don't have to stay within a range.
It's just for that 24 hours,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Well, that's certainly useful.
Yeah. So, I mean, didn't I feel like it was somehow related to
Well, so one thing I want to make clear is that the boons you got from Solomonia, it is not unclear where they came from.
right.
In
Right.
the dream, you understood, like, Solomonia is not the sort of deity that lets it be a mystery. She gave
Right.
you a boon, you know where that boon came from. So
So, I mean, do you think that maybe this is part of that? I mean, what did she give
No.
you?
No, it was more of I study my spells all the time. But in order to get ready for a day, I have to keep them fresh in my mind. There's little mantras and things that I do, which means I can't remember all the spells at once.
Right.
But the gift she gave me was the ability to remember one that I didn't remember the mantra of for that day.
Oh,
I don't think this is this. I don't know any cold magic, except I feel like I do. Strange. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
I didn't mean to hurt Ivy.
I think
I
that,
think she's really cool.
yeah, I think that's what it is. Like, did you never meet anybody like her before?
Well, there are all kinds of academics that were around, but
But pretty ones?
pretty?
Yeah.
Well, I guess not.
We're gonna have the talk with Nedry.
I mean, I think maybe she's making you a little nervous because not
Well, of
only
course,
is she
she's been
incredibly
everywhere.
smart like you, but also she's kind of pretty.
I guess.
And I think that maybe it might have kind of made your magic misfire a little bit.
But that doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
No, my magic is very controlled and very directed and deliberate.
But also, if you're really nervous because someone super impressive is right in front of you, your brain is going to play the worst tricks on you, and it's going to make you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in. That's an excellent comment in the chat there that nobody at home will get, but it just broke me down.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be.
yes.
I don't understand, but I mean, I have learned a lot about magic. So
Right.
maybe it's something to do with the Denetherian magic, or maybe I'm finally trying to understand that part.
Maybe. Or maybe did she make you feel kind of nervous?
Well,
I mean, if you could have seen your face, I've never seen you pay attention to anyone like that except Sorshana. And that's it. Like, and sometimes sequential when they would talk about, you know, fancy kebab delating things. I don't know. But not even that. Like, She really got your attention, Nedry. And I think for a moment, like the little synapses in your brain just kind of misfired.
It's, I mean, yeah, she's just been places. I thought I had been a few, and the internal dance and the fire plane
Yeah.
were interesting, but I mean, the number of places she's not only been but lived and learned. I,
Okay, but that's the thing that you have to realize. You've been a lot of places that she hasn't been. So you have something to talk about with each other. So you don't need to feel intimidated because she has new things that you can learn from her, and you have new things that she can learn from you. Like you can tell her about the eternal walls because how many people are out there that have been there and have got to come back?
maybe
It's just going to, and he starts lapsing into this guttural, draconic language, and he doesn't even notice that he's sort of broken into that. It sounds kind of eloquent and poetic in its own bizarre way. Does Zaleen understand draconic?
No, she does not. So she would actually start speaking in abyssal because she's like, what are we just speaking in weird languages now? Like, and do you understand abyssal? Because
I had to
if
double
not,
check. He just kind of looks at you.
why are you using? I don't understand you.
because that's what you're doing. Like you're not even speaking straight.
I'm not.
No, no. Like you're speaking common and then you're speaking in some other language that I don't even know, and you were doing it before.
Really?
I think you need to stop falling asleep on your book.
Well, I mean, sleep just sort of happens. It's not something I'm choosing. It's sort of, I mean, you're in the middle of something and you continue to read and then suddenly you're asleep. It's not really like it's a plan.
I think that maybe you need to make a plan to be like, okay, it's 11 o'clock. I need to put this book down and go to sleep. I don't think you're getting enough sleep or something. I don't know. Coupled with being super nervous in front of this really accomplished, pretty bird woman. I mean, I think that she just made you really nervous.
Maybe I'll just stay in here and read for a while.
And he reaches for his book and realizes it's not on his hip as it normally is.
Nope.
Oh,
But I have it in my hand because I grabbed it off the table before I left. And I say, you cannot stay in here and hide. You're
I'm
going
not
to be
hiding. I'm just
you're going
studying.
to be traveling with her for who knows how long.
It's a big castle.
I know, but she's going to spy on us, so she's going to spy on you too. Maybe you should just get to know her and take some deep breaths every time you know you're going to be around her and try to center your mind.
He takes a deep breath and he blows out this sort of wispy cloud of cold air.
So, in that moment of silence, one of the stalls opens, and a human man in nice sort of just Sunday brunch clothes comes out and starts to wash his hands without making eye contact.
Maybe this isn't the best place to just.
No.
This.
Let's come on. Let's go sit down and eat and just
Yeah, the guy finishes
Try.
washing his hands and like fast walks out.
Maybe tomorrow I'll come to the table and then we can talk or something tomorrow.
okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go back to the castle and I will tell everyone that you're not feeling well.
Okay.
Okay. Here's your book. Can you make it back? Okay. Do you need to have someone come with you?
No.
And he looks at you as if you're
I'm
like
insane.
the dumbest thing you could have asked him.
No.
Are you sure?
Of course.
Okay. Why don't you go back and get some rest, and you can meet up with her and get to know her again later.
Maybe that's
Okay.
maybe that's the best.
Okay. I'll make your excuses for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's okay. I don't think you have a lot of ladies that you know that
He looks puzzled that you had the mention of ladies, like that's a significant word or something in the sentence.
that are really smart that pique your interest. So it's a new thing that maybe you need to get used to.
Maybe
Maybe.
the castle's really big, though. I'm sure there's places I can
Yeah,
study.
you do that. You'll be okay.
Takes his book, straps it on his leg, kind of tries to straighten himself up as if, normal, no problem, no problem.
All right. Do you want me to
Almost
walk-
slips on the little pool of water on the floor.
I grab him. I grab the back of his robe. I'll keep him from
Somebody
falling.
should really clean this place up. It's a mess.
Yeah. I'm gonna walk you to the door, okay?
I think you can go to the door without going by the table where everyone's at, but it's kind of the long way around.
Okay.
I'll walk him out to the front
Mhm.
and kind of like watch him as he's walking away to make sure that he's okay.
He's looking over his shoulder every once in a while, kind of like, this is not, maybe, I don't know. Okay.
I just wave every time he looks back. Still here.
Yeah. Every time he sees her, he turns back very quickly and starts marching even further faster away.
So I think while all of that has been going on, just to buy time, I probably asked her, Ivy, to tell us a story about one of her adventures or something like that. Some memorable experience that she's had.
She decides to talk a little bit about the time that she spent in Elysium, which is one of the upper planes and is an afterlife destination for a relatively small number of souls from other planes, because it is the souls of people who are valorous and virtuous enough to be, claimed by the upper planes when they die, but also the ones that really like fighting. And so they have eternal battles and then feasts and then battles again. And sometimes they die in those battles and then they wake up again and do it again the next day. And she just found that all very fascinating because it was very much akin to sport in many ways, and furthermore, what was even perhaps more exhilarating about the idea of battle as sport is that all of the people there, simply by the virtue of them having been chosen by the plane in the first place, were good sports about the whole thing.
Fascinating.
And like right as Lynn says fascinating, like I will come back to the table. Oh,
Gonna give you one of those looks like, is everything okay? Just with my eyes.
And I just kind of like look at you like, so Nedry's not feeling very well. He actually went back to the castle
Dear.
but he will probably catch up with you once you are, back at the castle with us and stuff. So that way you can kind of get to know him. He's just not feeling very well.
Well, I
I'm
do
sure it'll
hope
be
he
fine.
feels. I do hope he feels better. Was Draconic, yes, that he was speaking?
Yeah.
I'm afraid that's not one of the languages that I lay claim to, but I recognize the sound of it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't Aarakocra have the ability to learn and mimic any language?
Well, I think you may be thinking of Kenku.
Mm.
I am skilled at many languages, but I do not have the gift of mimicry that my Kenku cousins do. However, I'll take the wings in exchange.
Yeah.
I do speak primordial, and of course my own native dialect of Auran, Celestial, Elvish, Gith, Primordial, Sylvan.
Oh, that's fascinating. I speak in Abyssal and Deep Speech. Do you
Oh.
speak any of those?
I do speak Abyssal.
We'll have to have a conversation sometime.
Well, I would be happy to do so, although I think probably, as you know, we shall do it probably to ourselves. It's not terribly pleasant to listen to if you're not the one speaking it.
Yeah, and also you really need a lot of like cold drinks and stuff. It's
Oh
so
dear,
rough
yes.
on your throat.
Effort, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'll just lean over and say, in Sylvan, I would say, well, I think it'd be most interesting sometime to have a conversation where it's a bit of an inside joke where only you and I can understand it, isn't it?
She just leans. She kind of winks and says, "I can't wait." In Sylvan.
So yeah.
But I'm afraid I only know a couple of fun swear words in Draconic.
Oh,
So yeah. Are we eating? Did we order food and stuff? And-
Yeah, I think that you hadn't gotten around to that because she came sort of before they came to take your order, and then there was kind of a lot going on, so the waiters
Right.
hadn't come by. But certainly we can kind of hand wave the rest
flag
of that.
them down. Yeah.
Especially since I think we're getting close to perhaps the end of the session for tonight. But Nedry, what do you get up to as you leave the restaurant? Do you just head on back, or?
He starts to head back, but then has a thought, so he kind of goes to a side alley
Mm-hmm.
and he starts to shout some things in Draconic
Mm-hmm.
and starting noticing some spells start to form that he did not know. And it occupies him for a while because he kind of forgets about everything else.
Mm-hmm.
The alley looks as though a snowblower has kind of spewed everything out down the alley, but yeah, that'll occupy him for the morning.
Yeah. I think perhaps that will be we will crane shot away as we see the alley sort of filling with frost and snow, and that is where we will leave things for tonight's session. But what will the pocket protectors get up to in the week before they depart for Amersham? Well, we will have to find out when we return next time for more adventure on so many levels.
So
many
many
levels.
levels in Draconic.
Yeah.
Shazbot.